forgot to do the whole introductory thing for the meeting. It was just like,
Yeah.
okay, we're just going to start.
We're going to start now.
Yeah, we're just going to start.
Couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They took my gavel. I don't have a gavel.
You had a gavel.
Come back there.
There is a
Oh,
gavel.
I'll spare them the gaveling.
There have been days of the planning connection.
You've needed it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, if I'd known there was a gavel, I'd been like,
All right. Well, it's 6:30, so it's 6:30 on my clock. So I will officially call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Charter Township of Meridian Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Today is Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, and it is 6:31 now. And up first, we will take a look at the agenda. Do we have a motion there? Anybody read and looked it over? Member Field Foster,
Support.
supported by Member Hendrickson. I'm getting back in my groove. I'm much better on Zoom.
Our names
Okay.
Are, our names
Your
are
name-
I know. That's why I've got them written down. This was a Brian Beauchesne trick. I've got them written down in front of me. All right. Is there any discussion on the agenda or anything to add or? Okay. In that case, we're going to go ahead and vote on to approve the agenda. Member Shorkey.
Yes.
Member Field Foster.
yes.
Member Hendrickson.
Yes.
Member Opsmer.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The agenda is passed. We will move on to, I know, this is exciting stuff. We will move on to the corrections, approval, and ratification of the minutes for Wednesday, August 25th, 2021.
I have a correction in the
Okay.
minutes.
Member Field Foster, go ahead.
Oh, shoot. On the adjournment, section 10, I just want to correct that Chairman Mansour was not here at that meeting.
I was
and, I closed out and adjourned the meeting at 7:02.
Okay, so noted. So we will hope that our lovely minutes taker here will notify that. And on that case, we do not approve the minutes. Is that correct? Or we can approve with that with that amendment?
With the
Okay.
amendment.
And that is a motion to approve by Member Hendrickson.
Oh, actually, sorry.
Oh.
I was just looking to recognize.
Oh, it's okay.
I've got one more as well.
Okay, one more
which is,
correction.
we missed a hyphen in Member Field Foster's name in section 9.
Oh, you are,
wow.
I have eagle eyes there.
Bothered that you brought that up before.
Well,
Okay,
this
I'm
battle
bothered that I missed that.
this battle of
Hyphens.
grammar
yeah.
and hyphens has gotten very intense,
Yeah.
but we, so noted, Field Foster has a hyphen. And with that amendment, do we have a motion to pass the minutes from Wednesday, August 25th?
So moved.
So moved by Member Field Foster, seconded by Member Hendrickson, and we will go ahead and vote on those minutes. Member Shorkey?
Yes.
Member Field Foster?
Yes.
Member Hendrickson?
Yes.
Member Opsower?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Minutes are so accepted. And that brings us to communications. We had one communication in our packet this week regarding the case we will be hearing in new business. Is that something we need to discuss any further? Anyone?
No.
Okay, it was a message of approval for the variance that has been requested for our new business meetings this evening. In that case, we have no unfinished business. We will move directly into new business, which brings us to ZBA case number 21-09-08-1. Cleaver, okay. Cleaver, 5118 Park Lake Road, East Lansing, Michigan, 48823. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Chapman.
Good afternoon. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 86-373E5A, front yards, which states the front yard setback is 100 feet from the center line of the right-of-way on Park Lake Road. So the current 1,522 square foot single-family dwelling unit, the applicant is looking to add a 1,260 square foot attached garage to that dwelling unit. At its closest point, the single-family home is approximately 74 feet from the center line of Park Lake Road. And according to our records, the home was constructed in 1947, which the applicant has owned since 2017. So our ordinance map designates the street setbacks of Park Lake Road as a minor arterial street with a front yard setback of 100 feet from the center line of that street. The proposed 1,260 square foot garage addition is located on the south side of the existing home, and at its closest point will be approximately 75 feet from the center line of Park Lake Road. So a variance of 25 feet is requested. Also, there is a separate section of our ordinance that allows the Zoning Board of Appeals to establish a front yard setback. So section 86-561 states that any front yard in any single-family residential district may be reduced below the minimum required only when the front yards of the existing principal structures within 200 feet of the proposed principal building location are less than the required minimum. So the applicant has provided a map in the packet that shows some of the approximate existing setbacks that are within the immediate area in relation to this subject property. So the Zoning Board of Appeals, if it so chooses, can establish that front yard setback for this property under this section, which bypasses the need for a variance. With that, that's all I have.
Is the applicant or representative for the applicant here? And if you'd like to come up to the lectern and just state your name and address for the record, and you can add anything you'd like to add.
Hi, my name is Chris Cleaver. I live at 5118 Park Lake Road, East Lansing. I think Keith summarized it pretty well. I'd like to build an attached garage next to my house, no closer to the street than my house already is. The 10 houses to the north and the 2 houses to the south are all about the same 75 to 80 foot setback as my house, so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary, my garage. I can't build it behind my house, for instance, because there's a floodplain immediately about 10 feet behind my property. So this is kind of the only spot where a garage would work. I think that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
We don't at this moment, but if you will just, oh, we do.
Yeah, sure.
Member Field Foster has a question.
So the measurements that you included on this map, how did you get those?
Are you talking about the measurements from the road to the
Yep,
house?
from the road to the houses, with all of the houses that you...
With the neighboring houses.
With the neighboring
I
houses.
just Google mapped it and just approximated it from the Google Maps
Okay,
scale. So no, it's approximation, it's not exact.
okay. That's all I have.
Okay.
Anyone else for the applicant? If you'd like to stick close by.
Okay.
If you want to stand up there for a moment,
Sure.
that'll be helpful in case we do have questions. Anybody want to get started? Member Hendrickson.
Thank you. A question for Keith, which is, first of all, can you confirm the relative accuracy of the map provided by the applicant?
I mean, it's an approximation, so I would say yes. I can pull up GIS and give you another approximation if you would like to compare it to.
I assumed that in the preparation we would see, whether or not this was, from the township's
From
perspective.
my measurements of the houses, yes, from GIS.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could please give me a sense, Keith, of the alternate. So I want to understand the alternate option a little bit better here. It sounds as though what you're suggesting is that so long as the surrounding houses are relatively consistent with the house, the property in question, in terms of front yard setback, that the Zoning Board of Appeals can, in its discretion, waive the front yard setback in this case, specifically for this property, or create a new front yard setback, I should say, that is basically where the buildings are currently. Is that an accurate assessment of what you've?
That is correct.
Okay. And that doesn't extend to the properties on either side. This is just a single case based on the properties nearby.
Just this property, yep.
Okay, so there's no way to say, okay, we recognize that all these properties are 75 feet, not 100 feet. They're all non-conforming, right, by the front yard setback standards. And therefore, we can't just say all of them are 75 feet now.
Correct. You'd have to do a whole zoning ordinance amendment in order to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
So, but we are setting a precedent, right, by doing this here, and saying that, we recognize that on Park Lake, 75 feet is the standard in this area based on the houses nearby. And therefore, we set the front yard setback to be X, whatever it is, for this property. Right, so I'm just trying to think through what the future ramifications of making this decision might be, right? Every neighbor now on Park Lake, theoretically, could come to us and say, hey, I want to build a garage, I want to do this, right? And you told them 75 feet was okay. And so I just want to make sure I understand that, I don't know how much we're bound by our previous decisions like that, but that's something that we would be saying by approving this.
Right. I mean, each entity would have to come to us individually and request that. But, I mean, I guess, I don't know if it would hold up as, precedent, but, yeah.
Okay.
It's still an approval process.
Sure.
We could still say, well, find some other standard. And I guess relating to the map again, the ordinance says, oh, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
That's okay, go ahead.
Member Shorkey, I just want to make sure
Sorry.
we're good for minutes. Member Shorkey, go ahead.
Principal structures within 200 feet, does the map provided by the applicant cover that radius? Or, because it's not centered, if you look at the map, there's like there's 5 measurements going left, north, and then there's 2 measurements going south on that side, on the same side of the road. There's one directly across the street, and then there's 2 on the other side of the street to the south, and nothing to the north. I just want to make sure that everything within 200 feet is being considered, because I see it pretty straightforward. We could then calculate an average,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what it's asking us to do.
Yeah, the average of all of these numbers is 70.8.
Right.
Yeah.
So here, if you can see, let me move this for you.
Our
You know
front,
what,
our
our
front screen is
monitor is
not
not
working.
Oh,
We don't see anything.
gotcha.
Can I add something?
Yes, Mr. Cleaver.
Across the street, so there's no other houses across the street there because that's Wardcliff.
Okay.
The backyard basically of Wardcliff, so there's
Oh, okay.
there's soccer fields there.
So I will just say, Member Shorkey too, as the applicant just mentioned, there's the soccer fields there.
Yeah.
I'm there 4 times a week. I will say, all of these houses within 200. I mean, I
Okay,
would
you're- so
say,
you-
based on, I mean, I was just
Okay.
there at 5:30. But they all are at the road. So, I mean, or not at the road, I'm sorry. They're all at the same
Right.
distance. Visually, they appear to be pretty symmetrical. So I would say, you're right. I mean, within that 200 feet range, I think we're in that.
I'm not questioning that philosophically. I guess I'm trying to get to a number.
If we can find a number for the
Yes.
setback, you're saying.
Right.
So I think, I will just say the only problem I have with finding an average number for that setback is that if we look at this as this is just an individual case, and if we did come up with a different number where we do have differences there, that, again, we're gonna have to go through that whole applicant
That is
approval variance process again, so you might be looking at a different number at that point.
That is correct.
So that's.
Each property is going to have a
Each
slightly
property-
different
right.
calculation.
Right. Keith, Mr. Chapman.
Yeah, just to interrupt real quick, did we open the public hearing by chance, or we?
Oh, did I not say that we
I don't
went
think
to
those
board
words-
time?
I don't think those words were uttered.
Okay.
Yeah,
We've been in board time for a few minutes.
yeah.
I'm sorry, board time began when we took our first question for Mr. Cleaver from member Fieldbuster. Okay, and member Hendrickson, did you have another?
Oh, I just, to member Shorkey's question also, this parcel is 133 feet in length
Okay.
from south to north.
Okay.
So really, we're looking at more or less only 1 or 2 properties
One on either side.
on
Okay.
either side.
Thank
So-
you.
That helps.
Yeah.
Member Fieldfoster.
Okay, I don't know if this goes to Mr. Chapman or maybe one of our board members may know the answer to this. Because as we're talking about either changing the ordinance for this one house, or at least the provisions as it impacts this one house, versus doing a variance for this one house, I'm struggling to understand what the benefit of one versus the other is ultimately going to be if with every other house, they're still going to have to come back and ask for a change.
I would say the difference to me that I see is that, first and foremost, we don't have to meet the criteria, the 8 criteria. Is that correct, Mr. Chapman?
Yep.
So we can do this without meeting our 8 criteria. The second advantage, I think, that I see to this option versus the granting the variance is that this setback then stays with the house, whereas the variance also stays with the house, but they don't have to come back to the board, to the ZBA, to change anything else, as long as it's within that setback that we've set up.
Okay. All right, so I think the criteria, basically, we don't have to meet the criteria to give them,
I think that's.
okay,
the
we don't have to,
largest benefit.
yeah, we don't have to meet the criteria,
Member
which,
Hendrickson.
Yeah, I guess when I was looking through the criteria for this, one of them that I struggled with, which I think would help us, in deciding which path to follow here, was criteria number 7.
That's where
Yeah.
Which is the
I
general
agree.
or recurrent in nature.
yes.
Now, I probably could make a case for number 7 in this case, simply because of the floodplain and the elevation drop-off behind the house. I don't know if that's, without really digging into the properties in that area, I
What else is
wouldn't
going on?
know if that would be recurrent or general. But, if you remove the floodplain and the elevation drop-off from this particular property, this apparently is happening all throughout Park Lake. All down Park Lake Road, I should say. And so, I would generally think it would be cleaner for us to set a setback in this one property, and then, set that for any neighbors that needed it as time went by. Honestly, my biggest concern in setting a single-use setback here is, we're making staff's life a living nightmare down the road when they've got to, figure that all of the individual things set by us, but they're doing that with a variance anyway. So let's choose the process that's cleaner and that, that I think is going to allow us to honestly say, we may not be able to meet criteria 7, but we believe that given the nature of the neighborhood, right, given that, this is a grandfathered neighborhood, they're all 75 feet back, let's just set it at 75 feet.
Member Fieldfoster.
So I would definitely agree with that. When I was coming in, I liked the alternative option. I think where I actually got hung up in the criteria was when I read this was a second garage. And I was more inclined, if you have a garage, or if you didn't have a garage, to say that was a practical difficulty versus you wanted to put up a second garage and that being a practical difficulty. So that option to actually change the setback would get me the direction I wanted to go. So I'm fine with that. I think one follow-up.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chapman, how do we go about doing that? I mean, is it just basically doing a motion to say that we want to establish the setback at whatever number we come up with? Are there any particular conditions or?
No, it's as simple as you saying you want a certain number and then voting on it.
Okay.
So.
Good to know. All right. Member Hendrickson and then Trustee Opsmer.
I would suggest, and I'll make a formal motion later perhaps, but I would suggest that since the home is 74 feet from the center line, as we're considering what setback to actually establish, that we consider the 74 feet as opposed to the 75 feet. So that we don't have them running into issues should they decide to build in a different way on the property down the road.
I would agree. So noted. Dan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Chapman, when we look at section 86-561, my reading of that is the intent was basically to allow the ZBA to address non-conforming structures. Would you agree, or do you think there's a different intent behind it?
Yeah,
Basically,
I would say that's what it's for, yeah.
How, when did we move the front yard setback to 100 feet for this class of street?
I
Don't
couldn't
know.
tell you. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Clearly since the home was built.
Yeah.
Because,
It was definitely
and the
after-
adjacent homes on Park Lake, so.
I mean, we didn't have a zoning ordinance until 1960, so the house was built in 1947, so it's probably, it's possible that it's been like that since our zoning ordinance started.
Okay. Those are my only questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I think I will take temperature here. Is anybody interested in going through the criteria? Because I would tend to agree with Member Field Foster that there was a couple criteria that were gonna get me hitched up anyway. So, and I think Member Hendrickson has already said so on one of the criteria as well. So if we are not interested in reading the criteria, yes, Member Hendrickson.
I move to establish a 74-foot front yard setback for 5118 Park Lake Road. End of motion.
I will second that motion.
Seconded by Member Shorty, okay.
With the caveat that I would, since this has the potential of opening a Pandora's box, Township should look at whether we need to do some sort of an amendment to address this in this section of Park Lake Road.
Yes. Can I also add, Member Shorty, that could be, obviously we have our planning commission representative, but maybe even in board comments, so that is as noted, as well
okay.
as being something that we as a board would like further consideration taken. And I think not having to go through the criteria, get to criteria 7 and go, wait a second, is this something that we should take a look at? We still should note it as such, but all right. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, well, in that case, we'll go to a vote. Member Shorkey, this is a motion to approve a new setback of 74 feet for the address of 5118 Park Lake Road, East Lansing, Michigan, 48823. Member Shorkey.
Yes.
Member Field Foster.
Yes.
Member Hendrickson.
Yes.
Member Opsmer.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The setback has been changed to 74 feet for your property. And with that, I will ask if there's anybody else that, since I missed this step, if there's anybody else in our audience here or any other representatives that would like to speak about this case or make a public comment at this time.
Thank you.
Okay. And if there is no public comment, I will close public comments. Thank you for coming. And I will go to board comments. So, Member Shorkey, I would love to hear your...
Well, first of all, I want to formally apologize for missing the last meeting. I never in my professional career have missed a meeting, except when I was having my arm reconstructed. The day after that surgery, I did miss a meeting. I sincerely apologize to this board. The comment that I said during the seconding, yeah, I hear the potential of the Pandora's box, and if this can be addressed generally, maybe we should get ahead of it. That's all.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that. And I will add that I would just remind ourselves, our applicants, all the viewers at Reno's East, that we do have to take every case by case.
Yes. that is-
So as much as we potentially have these cases that could be coming forward in the future, that, case by case, we'll get through it. And I have no doubt that the five of us here can figure that out if and when it comes to that. But I do think that Member Hendrickson has maybe something to take back to Planning Commission, and maybe even Trustee Opsmer back to the board, and discussing some of these issues. So we would just defer to our two members here in that regard. But I also apologize for missing the last meeting, but good job, you three, for getting through and persevering, just with a nice tight quorum of 3. So, anybody else? Okay, well, on that note, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Look at that.
Look at that.
Yes, see, 6:55. You guys gave me a challenge. You gave me a challenge. I had to beat it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and the funny thing is, when I write my name, I do not hyphenate it. Is that right?
You know, I know.